Hey everyone, Sam here with Windy City Production. I'm putting this video together for, yes, all of our current clients. We are gearing up for your final meeting, right? I want to share some really important information to help make sure that we streamline that meeting, but more importantly, have a better grasp as far as what matters most to you going into that final meeting, okay? Obviously, we're extremely excited, looking forward to the big day. I have a problem of talking too much, so I'm really going to try to whittle this down and try to keep it as short as possible, but thank you for watching it fully through. I will also hyperlink below the relevant elements to the video to kind of help streamline your process looking through this video for what matters most to you, okay? So let's jump into it. I'm going to try to talk a little bit faster, so I apologize if I sound like I'm rapping, okay? First things first, we have a lot of free bonuses for our current clients. You are more than welcome to take advantage of those. Of course, our most recent one is our $10,000 free bonus. Yes, we're giving away $10,000 at the end of this year. You don't have to do anything specifically. You don't have to sign up. There's no additional investment, nothing of that nature. We want to have the best photos and videos at the end of this year. We felt it was important to us to make a little bit of an investment to make it interesting. So we're going to give away $10,000. There's a bunch of categories, and you can find out all the relevant information about this, of course, via past videos I dropped. If you didn't catch that, you could also find it on our website. We have a page dedicated to our current clients. And in addition, we also have a page dedicated to all the free bonuses, okay? So visit our website, make yourself familiar. It could pay, right? We're giving away free money, which is pretty cool. And at the end of the day, like I said, the community will vote on it. So in addition to that, we also have a free pre-shoot for all of our video clients specifically. And for any SAM video packages, we have a free Groom's morning upgrade. And you can find all those details, of course, on our website, okay? There's a lot more free bonuses, but they're more so after your wedding. So there's a lot to dig into after. We're probably the only company that adds so much value after your wedding day, which is pretty cool. Enough about that. Let's dig into the most important element kind of this video, and that's timelines, right? Gearing up for the big day. Now, before we dig into that, I want to emphasize something really important. This big day coming up, what matters most to us is specifically the important elements that matter most to you, okay? As I tell people, I highly encourage, and I can't say that enough, to really sit down and kind of figure out what matters most to you, okay? Every couple's different. For some, details are important. For others, it's not so important. For some, romantics are the world to them. For others, not so much, right? You really want to get a good grasp as far as what matters most to you. If you have to kind of create like a hierarchy in your head, that's going to be really important kind of coming into your final meeting. Not only that, another aspect to remember too is you want to invest, once you understand what matters most to you, time into the things that matter most to you, okay? And I'll probably reiterate this a little bit through the video, but that's important, okay? If romantics are important, I highly encourage invest the time in that because you want to get that return, okay? If details aren't that important to you, do not invest more time than needed or any, if it's really not important to you, into that element, right? That's really important. Here's something to consider too, okay? Pretty much throughout life, right, you get a return based on the investment you put into it, okay? And you need to keep that in mind because you could have the world's greatest shooters, and this is the honest truth. But if you don't give them time for the elements that matter most to you, you can't expect good quality. Like, that's the reality of it. Like, if romantics are really important, you really give your photographer or videographer the time to maximize that vision for you, okay, guys? If they're not, like I said, then don't, right? And I think that's where there's a lot of misunderstandings I've seen that in the past with other companies and people frustrated, and you can see it in the reviews and things of that nature. We just want to be as transparent and upfront about this as possible and really get a good grasp of what matters most to you. So let's dig into it, all right? What I'm rolling out here is a general kind of time frame of shots to give people an idea, because from my understanding and putting myself in your shoes, it's new for us all. It was new for me and Katie, right? And there's that question, right? Because, I mean, obviously we take it for granted. I think our photo and video industry, like, we've done this, and Katie and I have shot over 1,000 weddings. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's new for you. And there's that question of, well, how much time in certain elements of the day, right? That's what this approach is really going to kind of tackle and share kind of what we recommend, okay? Now, a few caveats before I really dig into this. The first caveat, this is really relevant to our shooting style. It's not perfect for all other companies. However, I think it's a good starting point. But everyone has a little bit of a different shooting style. I would assume we shoot a little bit faster than others. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, But also, as I kind of walk through these times, I want you to remember it's uninterrupted shooting. Now, with that, there's a caveat. We don't expect uninterrupted shooting on your day. Like, that never happens. Wedding days are chaotic and crazy, right? And we're going to do our best to capture it. But as far as the time frame goes, that's the way I'm going to approach it here. So, like, as I dig into it, if you hear like a 10-minute, window for details, you might be like, wow, that sounds really short. Well, that's from the moment we start shooting to the moment we're pretty much done. And that's from our past experience. That's not from the moment where we arrive and we're like, all right, you got details, and we're trying to grab details from all over the place. So yes, there's ways to expedite that and kind of pre-plan for that. But keep that in mind, because some of these might sound shocking, but remember, we're talking about uninterrupted shooting, and from the first shot to the end, to our last shot. In addition to that, if you don't allocate time, once again, it doesn't mean we're just going to stand around and twiddle our thumbs. Like, we're always going to be shooting to tell the full story. We want the most incredible story of your wedding day. I want your kids and your grandchildren to look through your photos or videos and feel like they're reliving it. That's really important. I want to story tell through it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do throughout the day. And even if there's elements where there's buffer time, if we finish something early, and I would hope other companies do this as well, we're not standing around twiddling our thumbs. We're still looking to add value and get new shots. We're always going to be shooting, okay? So before I dig into everything, there's really kind of, if you will, I like to think of it as this way. There's 4 major elements that are going to make up your day, really, when it comes to shooting, right? There's the bridal prep. It's not as big for grooms, but obviously the prep, right? There is the romantics. There's the bridal party shots. And then there's, of course, the family photos. And then obviously there's a whole day, but those are kind of the 4 major categories. I encourage you to kind of figure out like what matters most to you, okay? So let's dig into this, because I can ramble on. So when you visit our website, windycityproduction.com, current clients, what you'll find now is our breakdown. Now, these may change, and also there are elements outside of our, that we can't control. And some of those would be travel, right? What if we hit traffic? Complications due to participants' willingness to participate, right? Weather, you name it. So even though we give these recommendations, there's always that curveball on the day of that something goes badly wrong. It can throw things off, okay? Once again, from our experience, we're very well versed in handling these things, but it's something to consider. As much as we wish it could be perfect and to the T, it pretty much is not going to be, okay? That doesn't mean we shouldn't try, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't give you an idea of what you can expect. But keep that caveat, of course, in the back of your mind. So digging in, let's start from the top. Stylized detail shots, okay? If details are big and important to you, okay? That is stylizing your shoes, your invitation, dresses, flowers, things of that nature, right? I would recommend at the very minimum allocating no less than 10 minutes, okay? And that's just stylizing your details, okay? That's not like bridesmaids and robes and that kind of stuff, right? This is just specifically tackling details. Now, if you're a big fan of details, I would recommend setting aside about 20 minutes, okay? Some people absolutely love details. Shout out to you, because Katie falls in that category. You want to invest, I'd recommend about 30 minutes, right? Now, once again, everyone's a little bit different. Once again, go back to that concept of what matters most to you. And this is really, really important, okay? Now, moving on, what you'll see next is bride getting dressed, okay? Now, this is excluding, of course, possible letter reading, gift exchanges, bridesmaids and robe shots, and, of course, whether you're doing like a first look with your bridesmaids or your dad, things of that nature, okay? So the minimum I recommend is about 15 minutes. Now, a lot of people seem to think they're going to get an address in 5 minutes or less. That sounds great, but once again, things go wrong, unfortunately. Sometimes, and I'm not wishing this on anyone. I've seen people where they think they're going to get an address in 5 minutes and they have a corset back. Like, that's not happening. I've also seen dress malfunctions. I've also seen hair and makeup go way off, right? And we're waiting for mom or sister to help her get in the dress, okay? Now, remember, this is, once again, uninterrupted shooting from the first moment we shoot, right? Because even though you might be ready to hop in the dress, like, there might be some of that lead up to it, right? If you have to get into some form-fitting clothes, or if you have to finish up your lip touch-ups, right? Things like that. So the moment that door is closed and you're like, all right, Sam, Katie, I'm ready to get in this dress. We'd love to get a few shots of you kind of admiring your dress, in your robe, or, whatever it may be. And then we will step out to make sure you have all the privacy in the world to, of course, hop in your dress. We will come back in and do our finishing shots as far as like finishing zip or tie or button, whatever it may be. And of course, some additional shots in addition to that, right? We want to tell that story and have some incredible shots with you, and whether it's mom or sister. So minimum 15 minutes. Ideal I'd recommend is 30 minutes, okay? And that's from the moment when you're in the room, door closed. Because yes, people are going to, if that door's not closed, you're going to have a bunch of people asking you a bunch of questions and it just gets chaotic, okay? If you want some extraordinary shots in that element and that's really important to you, I'd even recommend setting aside about 40 minutes. So that's bridal prep for our ladies, okay? Now, groom prep, completely different story. We're a lot easier. And there's the trick there is it's kind of like a wild card. You can mix it in anywhere, okay? That's the cool thing about it. For a lot of our weddings, we start with our grooms because they're so easy. We don't even need all the groomsmen. All I really need is, of course, our groom, the best man, any siblings or dad, right? And he can already be pretty much fully dressed. What we're going to do is borrow some cufflinks, a watch, if details are important, and we'll shoot some of those very briefly. And then we'll kind of recompose them, right? We're throwing the jacket on. We're doing, whether it's the tie or bow tie, stylizing some of that, right? Mixing best man in, dad in, right? Siblings, if they're there. We don't need all the groomsmen. We'll get them later, okay? That's the first way to kind of tackle the groomsmen. An additional option is shooting him right before the ceremony. So the only other task the groom's going to be told is show up to the ceremony and be there early, right? Well, that's a beautiful time to sneak in some time, right, with him, right? Because we have to be there anyways. The bride is pretty much hidden away, so we can sneak in some shots there with him as well. Because remember, it's really only going to take about, on the minimum side, about 15 minutes. On the ideal time, we're looking at about 30 minutes, okay? So those are the two times. We could talk more about it at your final meeting. We wouldn't expect you to absolutely know it now, but it's something to think about. And that's the point of this video, is really to get people to think through this process and what matters most to them. All right, moving on. Bridal party shots. Let's dig in there, okay? The big two, I know I talked about the big four. The big two are bridal party shots and romantics, okay? And even there, I'd recommend kind of thinking of it as a balancing act. What do you want? Do you want an equal balance? Do you want one heavier than the other, meaning more time in one versus the other? And that tends to be the majority of our couples, where they really want to allocate a good amount of time into romantics versus bridal party. Now, they still get some epic bridal party shots. I don't want to lead people to believe like they're not going to get that, but romantics on their hierarchy have a higher standing, so we invest more there for them, right? As far as time goes. So digging into bridal party shots, this is excluding video, and I'll touch on this in a moment here. At the minimum, we recommend about 30 minutes, okay? Now, within that 30 minutes, we're not able to really include individual shots. What that would be is like an individual groomsman with the groom. So there's two of them in the shot together. We would do that with every groomsman with the groom. So the groom has a shot with all of his guys, and the same with all of our girls with, of course, the bride, right? If that's important to you, I'd recommend bumping it up. Ideally, you want 60 minutes, okay? Now, within that 60-minute mark, we are going to spend approximately 30 minutes with the guys, 30 minutes with the gals. Well, it won't be that exact breakdown because we're also going to get the full group, okay? But the point is, if you're giving us an hour, we should have individuals, we should have groups. So all the groups, there could be a bunch of breakdowns, just the guys, just the girls, fraternity guys, fraternity girls, or sorority girls. So basically micro breakdowns, big breakdowns, the full bridal party and individuals, right? So if that's important to you, allocate the time there for it, right? Now, the caveat there was excluding video. For video is different from photo, okay? And I really want to touch on that. So even if we're not shooting your photo, we want obviously the best photos and video for you. And I say this, and I will say this even if we're shooting with a different video company. If video is important to you, you need to invest time in it. You could have the world's greatest videographer, but if they don't have time to take a lead role when it comes to bridal party and romantics, your video is going to suffer, to be honest. It's going to be at the mercy of the photographer. And photo is a little bit more rigid and posed, right? I believe we have a very fluid and natural shooting style, and a lot of photographers like to say that. I feel like it's kind of like a buzzword or a buzz phrase, but ours really is. Still, the point is just give it to the videographer if it's important to you. If you're making that investment and you got a competent videographer, invest the time, right? I'd recommend giving your videographer at the minimum 10 minutes for the bridal party. That's excluded from the photographer shooting. So this is something on top of that, okay? If you want the ideal time, I'd recommend 15 minutes. That's not a lot of time when you really think about it. Like, your videographer really boils down to like, okay, they get two elements of the day, and this is the truth. If I'm shooting video, obviously I'm very candid throughout the day, But there's really two elements that are going to really make my day. That is, once again, bridal party and romantics. And romantics is king, right? For the most part. And if you're only giving them 15 minutes for bridal party and you're only giving them 20 minutes for romantics, they get 35 minutes out of the entire day. Like, think about that, to create this epic cinema. So, I wish it was more. Videographers would take more, trust me. But we tend to get the shorter end of the stick, and I understand that. And I think things will continue to change as time goes on, as our industry further develops. But I do want to note that, right? So yes, to recap with bridal party, remember, if you got a videographer, factor that in and really kind of figure out what matters most to you, okay? Moving on, bride and groom, right? Romantics. This is, for many of our clients, the most important aspect of their day, right? And yes, we're going to still capture everything else. I don't want to mislead everyone, right? But for them, this is the highest, if you will, on the totem pole, the highest on their hierarchy, right? At the bare minimum, I recommend for photography 30 minutes. That's not a lot of time. And I say that because remember this, if you're doing an engagement shoot, they're typically what, 60 minutes to 90 minutes? It's a lot easier to move around with engagement shots because A, you don't have a bigger wedding dress. B, you don't have everyone congratulating you. Now imagine on your wedding day, you're going down to 30 minutes. So you went from 60 or 90 minutes for an engagement session and you're going down to 30 minutes. You know, once again, that's why you have to ask yourself, where do you want to invest the time in, on your wedding day, right? Because you do need to enjoy it too. I don't want it to think like it's this never ending photo shoot. This is the importance of understanding what matters most to you, okay? Ideally, I'd recommend about 45 minutes for romantics. If you want extraordinary romantics, recommend an hour. Now, this is excluding moving around, traveling, right? Like if we're on a trolley trying to get somewhere and that took 15 minutes, that's not really like continuous shooting time, right? Like shouldn't be considered in the 60-minute mark in your mind, okay? And the same goes for if people are kind of nonstop coming in and interrupting and saying congratulations and talking to you and sucking up 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, 2 minutes, that adds up very quickly. So yes, that's kind of a cap as far as that's what I'd recommend. Now there's also the video element. Once again, aside from your photographer, I'd recommend at the minimum 15 minutes for your videographer. That's really, really important if video is important to you. And ideally 20 minutes. Once again, if you got a videographer, I can't stress it enough, make sure you invest the time, okay? Moving on, family photos. Now, same thing there. I do want to make this caveat. Like, it's not as soon as the ceremony's over that you need to start kind of the time that's running, because remember, people are going to want to congratulate you. Maybe you do a send-off. But even if people are congratulating you, do you really want your photographer, videographer just ripping you away, or do you want to enjoy those moments, right? It's up to you, and I would encourage you to really think about that. I don't like to rip my clients away when people are congratulating them. You just got married. I want you to embrace it and be in that moment. And it also creates some really epic shots, to be honest. But regardless, whenever you guys are ready and everyone is back in the same location for family photos, we recommend at a minimum 25 minutes, okay? We're extremely fast. And remember, even if we get through these faster, we're not just going to twiddle our thumbs. We can start to move or segue or even have you enjoy even more of your day, okay? 25 minutes, but we need everyone at the same place, right? Like if we're looking for dad and hunting for him because he disappeared, which happens often because they're really excited, you can't really consider that the time, right? So we'll talk a lot more about this and share a bunch of recommendations to really help ensure that we're all kind of on the same page to really maximize your vision. And if family photos are important to you, we want to make sure we knock those out for you. Ideally, I recommend about 35 minutes for family photos. If you have a super extended family, I'd recommend even up to 45 minutes. Now, for our family photos, traditionally, we're just doing immediate family. So grandparents, siblings, parents. If you have some little nieces or nephews, you can mix those in as well. But if you have super extended aunts, uncles, godparents, like really extended, you definitely want to lean towards that 45 minutes. And there's also other ways to mix that in, right? Like you could do some of those later at the reception. You could do table rounds at the receptions. You name it. There's a lot of ways to navigate that, okay? And we can share a bunch of that. But I'm just kind of giving you a general, okay? This isn't the end all be all. All right, I'm almost there. Hang in there, guys. Thank you for your patience. Bride and groom first looks, okay? Let's talk about that briefly. If you're planning on doing a first look before the ceremony, so you guys are going to see each other before you walk down the aisle, I'd recommend it at a minimum 7 minutes. Remember, we got to navigate this. We got to coordinate to make sure you guys aren't crossing paths. We have to set you up, all this fun stuff, right? And not only that, it's just another one of those elements where you're going to see each other for the first time. We don't really want to rip you away from each other right afterwards and be like, all right, we got on this extreme timeline. We need to do this, this, and this. I want you to enjoy those moments, right? I want to give you a few minutes to connect with each other, to just be in that moment, right? Like that's really important to us. In addition to that, you also have to remember too, like, what if you're doing letters? What if you're doing gifts? I've seen that with couples where they'll actually do the letters or gifts right after the first look. Kind of have to factor that in too, right? And that goes back even to the bride getting the dress, right? If you're doing letters and gifts and stuff like that, adds some time too, right? So keep that in mind. Ideally for a first look, I'd even recommend up to about 12 minutes, factoring that in. All right, finally, open dance floor. You'll actually enjoy this one. Realistically, we only need to be there about 30 minutes. That might shock you, but after that 30-minute mark, we really have a diminishing return from our experience. Like we'll still keep shooting, but it's just a lot of the same things happening on that dance floor, right? It's Uncle Mike who gets more sweaty and more intoxicated, right? Doing the same dance moves, right? I would never recommend beyond about 45 minutes. Now, there are some interesting cases where that's not true. If we're doing a Hispanic wedding, being Hispanic myself, there's a lot of festivities that go throughout the night. You might need to stay a little bit longer and we can help you with that. But for the mass majority of weddings, I wouldn't recommend beyond 45 minutes, ideally about 30 minutes, okay? Of an open dance floor, that's pretty much it. Now, guys, I need to reiterate a few things once again. 1, create your hierarchy in your mind as far as what matters most to you, okay? 2, invest in what matters most to you, okay? As far as time goes, that's where you're going to get your return, okay? Can't stress enough. And 3, remember, you're going to get what you invest in, okay? So if you don't invest time in your videographer getting good shots for you with their lead role, like you're really at the mercy of the photographer. If you don't invest in romantics, a lot of time, like you're going to diminish the quality or at least the variety that you're going to get, right? And I have to point this out because we do have a lot of weddings where someone gets married and everything's at the same place. So after the ceremony, they go directly to cocktail hour and they are hoping to have family photos, romantics, and bridal party shots all done within that hour between the end of the ceremony to introductions. Well, think about it. For the first 10 minutes, everyone's congratulating you. For the next 5 minutes, we're trying to gather family members up front, right, for family photos. After that, your like cheeks might be hurting a little bit. You haven't even gotten a sip. You might be tired or exhausted a little bit, and you haven't even been able to recatch your breath. But we got to do bridal party now and romantics. So you can see how this gets complicated, and this is why we recommend thinking through what matters most to you guys, okay? There's a lot of tricks to this, and there's ways around it. I don't want to discourage anyone, but ultimately just really get you guys to think. That's all. At your final meeting, we really want to hear what matters most to you, and we're going to find a way to make that happen for you to the best of our ability, okay? But at the end of the day, on your wedding day, I do want to stress, we can only deliver upon what's given to us, okay? So if we're really cut short time, we're going to do our best and do hopefully better than anyone else at it, but we have the limit of time, right? Okay, so I ran through this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Now, I may update this. It's not that I may, I absolutely will, okay? As time goes on, we're going to continue to fine tweak this because I want this to be a great resource for everyone, whether you're in the industry or a bride. I hope this really helps as far as perspective goes. I thank you guys for watching through this. Just a few more moments here. One big thing to really consider too, timelines get thrown off, and a lot of them I see get thrown off when it comes to hair and makeup, and I don't want to dunk on hair and makeup. That's not the point of this, but I really stress with my couples to let your hair and makeup team know exactly when you need to be done, your mom needs to be done, or your sister, whoever it is, your maid of honor, matron of honor, whoever's going to be helping you in the dress. If you don't set an expectation with your hair and makeup, and if they go a half an hour or an hour later, this timeline really is boiled down to the essence. There's not a lot of leeway. Like we're telling you what's the essence of it. And if it gets cut in half because of hair and makeup went, like, that's tough. Like, would you expect your caterer to cook for 200 people and you told them an hour to cook it and now it's 30 minutes? Like, would you expect the same quality in food or the same taste? I wouldn't. So keep that in mind and don't be afraid to let them know, like, hey, I need to be done at X time. And we can help develop that time for you so that way you can share it with your entire vendor team. Once again, we want the best hair, the best makeup, the best everything. And I reiterate with everyone, you can have the world's greatest hair and makeup team and they no doubt will probably crush it. But if they went 2 hours, and I've seen this, 2 hours beyond, and you have no romantics or bridal party shots, like we have nothing to document how extraordinary you looked, which is crazy. All right. I really hope this adds value. One final thing. You may have questions. You may have concerns. I can't stress this enough. We'd love to connect with you and help you out. A great resource is our facts page. But moving forward, I've posted videos about this. The best way to get a hold of me is please schedule a meeting. You could do it through many means, right? You can do it through our website. You can do it through past emails where we gave you those links to do so. You could do it through your Google Calendar invite that we shared with you. That's really, really important to me because I don't want to miss or overlook a voicemail or an email, which I have indeed done. It gets chaotic during wedding season. I want to make sure this is our best year yet, and I'm really excited about it. That Google Calendar, you scheduling it through our system ensures that I get like a bazillion notifications so I don't miss it and so that I have dedicated time to it. I want to give you my full attention. I owe it to you, right? But please help me out by scheduling that, okay, guys? Once again, I really appreciate you looking through this. I feel bad because it's probably long, but I promise this video, I hope, added a bunch of value to you. We're really excited. We've had already a phenomenal start, and wedding season hasn't even kicked in. I can't wait to capture your big day, whether it's me, Katie, the team. We're really excited about it. Guys, wishing you all the best. Take care.